And welcome back to the broadcast. It was a very important discussion that we had earlier about black conservatives about this country and the Trump administration. We turn our attention now to Harvard University, and it's in the process of selecting a new president. Why this has become so controversial and why it's making so much news, we're about to tell you why. That's why Anthony Sylvester, who's a 2016 graduate from Harvard and a co-founder at the Elephant Society, is joining us, and Alan Beard, Georgetown University adjunct professor. So why is this such a big deal about this new process of selecting a new president at Harvard University?
Well, before we begin, I'd just like to congratulate my sister on graduating today. I love you, Liz. I would be there, but duty calls.
Oh, wow. Thank you for being here. Yes, I understand. You got to give that love, but go ahead.
So right now it's a big issue because transparency is not something that's happening at Harvard University. That's why we started a movement called Harvard Not for Sale. It's a coalition of student, alumni, faculty members, sort of like taking stake in the university and taking part in the selection process. Therefore, creating transparency and allowing the candidates to disclose anything that might potentially hurt the brand of Harvard University. For instance, there's a professor by the name of Dean Nitin Noria. He's currently the dean, actually, of Harvard Business School. He's the front runner for this new position of president of Harvard University. But in 2010, he was involved in a deal, a huge pharmaceutical deal, between Abbott and the pharmaceutical giant, and Piramal Enterprises, their healthcare division. It was a $3.7 billion deal. Shortly after the deal happened, everyone involved on the Piramal side, excluding the dean, was indicted and charged with insider trading. After that, Dean Nitin Noria, pending a trial and investigation while this Piramal Enterprises is pending investigation, he feels as if it's okay to sit on their board, decides to sit on their board. Shortly after that, his brother-in-law, Amit Chandra, gets on the board as well.
So what kind of money are they funding to the university at the same time? Because you just said in your opening that no university should be for sale. So obviously there's some kind of, is this a quid pro quo?
Well,
or you don't want to say?
It has perhaps the perception of a quid pro quo.
Well, you just don't get a position like that at Harvard unless there's some money or some deal at hand. I mean, come on, the public is not naive.
If you'd like, I'll break it down. I'll step by step. In 2010, a man by the name of Ratan Tata Sons and Trust, a $100 billion company, they donated $50 million to Harvard Business School. Shortly after that, Dean Noria becomes the dean of Harvard Business School.
And we know why.
Well, obviously.
Well, at one time in my life, Jeff Stoddard, who's also who helped assist us in setting up the show, I was involved with him at Tata. Nothing ever came about it, but I'm somewhat familiar with this, and I understand the process somewhat, so I just wanted to fully disclose that. And I do know about the $50 million payment and how he became the dean of the School of Business. But the fact that this guy is trying to become president now?
Yes.
That's astounding.
And here's the thing, we have to get factual and dissect it, the intricacies of what's going on. That way we don't leave any room for him to not be accountable. So after the $50 million, he becomes dean. Then he takes a position as dean of Harvard Business School. He takes a position on their board of he's on the board of the company that donated the money to the school.
Does that surprise you? Does this really surprise you? Come on now. Of course these universities are for sale. They need money. A lot of them are desperate. And it's for sale. That's just the way they are.
But some universities are desperate. Harvard is the pinnacle of academia. And so
that's what they tell us. But obviously something else is going on here.
So the expectation is an institution of the caliber of Harvard should be very concerned about perception almost as much as action. And here, whether there was a true quid pro quo or there's the perception of a quid pro quo.
Are you doubting it? This guy just did not get in this position without, of course they paid $50 million.
Well,
and probably committed to paying much more.
There is certainly a nuance, even in this town where we have lobbyists, and lobbyists come in, go into a congressman, and they give them a check. Is that for influence or is that for access?
Yeah, but I don't think it's illegal with universities. It's illegal with Congress. There's a whole different standard. There's a whole different legal and moral and ethical code when it comes to universities.
True.
I mean, because if you were to do that, then you'd indict them all.
Yes, but again, I think that.
So why is Harvard so different? Why are they being singled out? I'm asking you.
Well, I think why they're being singled out is because they're the pinnacle of academia. And I think these Ivy League institutions or prominent institutions like Georgetown in this city, they have a standard that they're supposed to be living up to. And that standard clearly looks to be a little sullied in what could be a quid pro quo. And I think in today's world, when there is, frankly, so much disharmony when it comes to religion, the one thing that we all seem to agree on is that education is really something that we all kind of idealize and we look up to, and we expect it to live up to a certain standard. And when that standard is somehow compromised, that creates serious credibility issues.
But is the standard compromising the education of the kids, the prestige of the university, and the good that the university has done for so many, many decades?
Absolutely. And someone who, I won't say everything I am right now I owe to the school, because I have my mother, God, so many other factors, but a big piece of it. Opportunities came after I graduated, and by being a part of that institution, and that's why I'm kind of protective of its integrity. Its integrity is being challenged because, for instance, the Piramal deal. After this person is indicted, charged, convicted of insider trading, the dean of Harvard Business School, the front runner, Dean Nitin Noria, appoints the ringleader, Ajay Piramal. You can Google it. Ajay Piramal to the Harvard Business School Board of Advisors. How do you put him as the Harvard Business School Board of Advisors? Now you're giving him the brand to leverage in any future dealings. And
so how do you stop this guy from becoming president? Because that seems like what you want to do. That's the agenda here.
Well, no, not.
So what is your goal?
To have transparency and accountability within the institution and the administration of the institution with all the candidates to start these conversations. That way we're holding our leaders to a higher standard, and that also maintaining the brand of the institution.
And I think that's important for the integrity of the brand of the institution, because again, so much there's a certain amount of allegiance and expectation that people have for these institutions, and when they compromise their standards, that trickles down. If Harvard can take shortcuts, why can't businesses take shortcuts?
Have you confronted those that would make this presidency possible for Nouri? In this process, have you gone to them? Have you started a petition? Have you gotten other students in academia and the community and Harvard graduates involved in this?
Well, HarvardNotForSale.com is a platform by which we're trying to do that. Also, yesterday I threw a huge party at the Harvard Faculty Club, but it was called the Harvard Holiday Christmas Dinner and Conversation, where I invited faculty. We had about 80 members of the community discuss these issues, and I brought it to the forefront. I mean, I got some stares. It was scary. It was scary because this is like the heart of the institution that I did this. You know, you got faculty members, you got some mean stares. Nothing that I haven't seen before. Yeah, it was, yeah, exactly. And I did, but it was a pretty scary situation doing that. But how do we stop it?
It's scary if you don't stand up on your principle. Exactly. That's what's scary.
Exactly.
I mean, having people stare you down, I mean, that's meaningless.
Exactly.
Because eventually you want them to join where you are. Because sometimes people cannot see. They're so busy in their lives. Sometimes you have to just bring it to them so they can just see it and say, oh my God, I didn't realize it was this.
Hopefully that happened at the Harvard Faculty Club Wednesday. I hope now that people are seeing this and hearing this, they understand what's at stake. Because, so, the Piramal deal, the Tata deal, this dean's brother-in-law, Bharat Anand, has done several case studies in favor of this company, the Tata company that donated $50 million, the $100 billion company. One story in particular, the nano car, they wrote a case study in favor of this nano car, and everybody else called it a monumental failure. So what's that? We're destroying the brand. Like, obviously, we're for sale.
Well, it's a perversion of academia.
Well, what you have to do is continue having conversations like this, whether it's on the internet, whether it's on TV, on radio, whether you write about it. You just got to continue your campaign until everybody's realized that you started a fire and you achieve your goal. I want to thank you both for joining us. Craig Kirby is coming back to talk about something we talked about earlier, philanthropy, giving, and why it's important. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away.